So that brings us to our next section, AI on campus. If the biggest problem is a lack of know-how, what are institutions actually doing about it? Let's zoom out from the single classroom and look at the campus-level strategies.
And what's really cool is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution here. You see a few different playbooks emerging. The University of Louisiana system, for example, went huge. They rolled out a system-wide AI literacy course for all 82,000 students and faculty, a kind of micro-credential. Then you have a place like UMass Lowell, which took a more grassroots approach, giving out small grants to let faculty members just experiment. And then there's Arizona State, which basically turned it into a campus-wide competition, asking everyone to pitch their best ideas.
So you've got these different approaches, right? Big, small, competitive, but there's a common thread running through all of them. The winning strategy isn't some massive top-down tech deployment. It's about starting small, focusing on just getting people comfortable with the basics, empowering the actual users, and, super importantly, making sure everyone has equal access.
All right, so we've seen the promise and the practice. Now it's time for part 4, the rules of engagement. We have to talk about the peril. How in the world do you set the rules for a tool this powerful, especially when you're worried about things like cheating?
Well, some instructors at Stanford University came up with a really smart and practical framework. They realized it's not a simple allow it or ban it question. Instead, they broke it down into 3 different ways you can approach it, because the right answer really depends on what you want the students to learn from that specific assignment.
Let's just look at the 2 ends of the spectrum here. On one side, you might actually assign the use of AI. The goal there isn't to test their knowledge of a topic, but to test their skill at using the tool itself, prompting, verifying, critiquing the output. On the other end, you might completely prohibit it, because the goal is for students to build up those foundational critical thinking skills on their own. See, the choice isn't really about the technology, it's about the learning objective.
But this goes way beyond just classroom policies about academic integrity. When you talk to K-12 leaders on the ground, they are wrestling with some really deep ethical and practical challenges as they try to bring AI into their schools. And when you dig into the top concerns from that NC State study, they pretty much fall into 4 buckets. You've got ethics, which is all about academic integrity and just using it responsibly. Then there's equity, making sure these tools don't just make the achievement gap even wider. Bias is a huge one, right? How do we address the prejudices that are kind of baked into these models? And finally, human oversight, making sure a person, an educator, is always in the loop for the important stuff.
And this quote about bias, it just hits the nail on the head. It's one of the biggest risks we face. I mean, these AI models learn from the mountains of text we humans have already produced. And if that data is full of our own societal biases, and let's be honest, it is, then the AI can learn and even amplify them. It really forces us to ask whose voice is being represented here and whose is being left out.
And that brings us to our final section. And honestly, it's the key takeaway from every single source we looked at: the human in the loop. AI is a tool, not a teacher.
Yeah, let's be super clear on this. Across the board, from K-12 principals to university researchers, everyone agrees AI is an incredible tool, but it is not a teacher. And it can't be. An AI can spit out a lesson plan, but it can't manage a classroom of 30 kids. It can grade a multiple choice quiz in a second, but it can't inspire a student who's having a bad day. So at the end of the day, the #1 rule for using AI responsibly in education is this: a human has to be the final authority. The goal here is AI for educators, not AI as educators. The human has to, always, be in the loop.
So look, AI is here to stay. This isn't a fad, and it's only going to get more and more capable. This technology can handle the what? It can process information at a scale we can barely comprehend. And that leaves us with a really big, really important question, not just for our students, but for ourselves. As AI gets smarter, what does it mean for us to become wiser? It's a question we're all going to have to figure out as we navigate this new world.